Hello everyone and welcome to Where Would They Play, a football podcast where we look at famous names from other professions and work out where they would fit into our beautiful game. We'll be looking at ideal positions, the perfect club and the overall trajectory of their careers. This is probably weird, this is probably sad, this is definitely Where Would They Play. Yes, hello everyone and welcome to the very first episode of Where Would They Play, which might end up being the strangest football podcast you've ever laid ears on. We're going to be looking at some famous people from other different walks of life, whether it be in sport, whether it be in movies, whether it be singers, whatever, and we're going to decide purely based on their name, purely based on the vibes that their name gives off, where they would be if they were a footballer. So yeah, this could be very, very strange, but I have got a couple of people joining me for this to help me out. First of all, I've got my very, very good friend, Paul Harrison. Paul, how are you doing today? Yeah, mate, doing really well, thank you. Can't wait to get into this very niche kind of subset, I guess, of football. I don't really know what the words are. You can tell I haven't done a podcast before. I don't know what I'm doing, so we're all learning together, and hopefully this will be a lot of fun. Yeah, exactly that. I've never done one before either. I've wanted to do one for years, and hopefully this will be the springboard for something. Anyway, also joining me today is my very good friend Andy Stevens. Andy, how are you doing? I suppose you're very, very happy after last night, a 2-1 win for Leeds United at Old Trafford. Yeah, mate, very happy. Massive win in terms of the relegation battle, and hopefully it puts us to within touching distance of survival. Obviously Forest, West Ham and Spurs, they're the three that are really in it, but hopefully that's the win that we need to take us out of it. But Leeds aside, very excited to delve into this niche, this very niche concept that you've created. But yeah, definitely very happy to get on board with it and see where we're at. Yeah, definitely. So let's kick off with our first subject, which is, seeing as the Masters has just finished, I thought it would be a good idea to maybe kick off with some golfers today. So we're going to be looking at some golfers' names and analysing where we think they would be if they were footballers, what kind of club they play for. I don't know why I'm explaining this again. I've explained this concept like 3 times. But yeah, what kind of club they play for, what position they play in, what kind of career they would have, and so on and so forth. So I've handpicked a select few that I think could provide some debate. So the first one is Justin Rose. Now, I'll go first. I'll give an example. So I see Justin Rose as, for me, he just screams Crystal Palace right back. He's there for 10 years, does a really solid job, doesn't really get noticed. Commentators never really talk about him. But yeah, does a very solid job, 7 out of 10 every week. But he's sort of like just about anonymous enough for no one to really ever really acknowledge his existence. Do you know what I mean? So for me, that's where Justin Rose would be. I don't know whether you two have any other ideas, or I mean, to be fair, I when you mentioned Justin Rose, I immediately thought, I don't know what, I thought Port Vale striker. Okay, yeah, like sort of like League One, League Two, prolific goal scorer. Gets about 20-25 a season. But doesn't really kick on from that League One level. You can see it like on a video printer. It comes up like Port Vale 1, Tranmere 0, Justin Rose 29. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's something I could definitely see happening. I reckon like lower league level striker, I think. Yeah, I could see that. I could see, and now that you think about it, yeah, I could see kind of like the Tom Pope, I guess. You know, you see him down there scoring a bunch of goals. I guess Justin Rose would kind of fit that bill, I guess. But yeah, I could see that, definitely. Andy, what about you? What do you reckon? I'm trying to think, like, I could maybe I could see him in like the Scottish Premiership, maybe. for like Aberdeen or so. I was going to say Hearts, but obviously they've done quite well this season. I don't know if Justin Rose would be like a title winning. He's not really a title winning golfer, is he? But yeah, I don't think I'd see him at Hearts. Maybe like an Aberdeen, or Inverness aren't in there anymore. But maybe when Inverness were in the Premier League, like I could see him there. I don't know. It's kind of interesting. Yeah, it is. I think it is the fact that we've all come up with three different answers. We've all had three totally different trains of thought. Shows that there aren't really any obvious ones. But yeah, I mean, yeah, I could see him. Yeah, but Justin Rose, that kind of sounds Scottish-ish, or does it? I don't really know. But yeah, I could see that potentially. Maybe like a. Do you think what kind of position would you see him in? I reckon he'd be like either a commanding centre back or like just a solid midfielder, like box to box maybe, not flashy, but just like solid, gets the job done, consistent. Like he just something about Justin Rose, the name just screams like 7 out of 10. Like doesn't put a foot wrong. Yeah, that's kind of a similar thing to my Palace thing. Like never has a terrible game, never has a particularly great game either. No, yeah, I know what you mean. So like, yeah, just a solid like 7 out of 10 all the time. But yeah, that's my thinking. I could see him like Scottish Premiership, but then I could maybe he stays there for a few years and then he comes down to like lower league, Premier League level, like I don't know, like a West Ham or a someone like a Nottingham Forest or someone like that, or maybe goes down to Championship. I don't know, but yeah, I see Justin Rose as like a Scottish Premier League player. Yeah, I mean I could see that. Yeah, again that kind of ties into a lot of players in the Scottish Premiership. They come to England and they don't always make it in the actual Premier League. A lot of them end up in like the Championship and League One, and maybe that's kind of his level. I don't know, but yeah, I could definitely see all three. They're all pretty feasible, I think. But yeah, I think there's definitely some interesting answers. But I'm definitely banking on that Port Vale striker. I could definitely see him like banging 25, 30 goals in a season. Championship clubs always sniffing round him, but never quite gets the move. Do you know what I mean? Okay, so there's definitely no consensus here. I was kind of debating whether we could come to an overall opinion, but to be honest, I think this is going to be so varied. I don't think there's any point in trying to come to an overall consensus and trying to pick a position between the three of us, because I think all three of us have obviously come up with very different ideas, and I think we're probably just going to have to stick to our original ideas. But yeah, Justin Rose is a mixture of a Crystal Palace right back, a Port Vale striker, and a SPL defender. It's not called the SPL, isn't it? It's the Scottish Premiership now. But yeah, okay. So Justin Rose is kind of a mixture, but the overall arc I guess is that he is we can all agree on the fact that he is a solid 7 out of 10. Always puts a shift in. Doesn't really have a terrible game. He's just consistent. Yeah, just consistent, and never puts a foot wrong. And yeah, he's just very average. Right, the next one is Shane Lowry. Any of you got any ideas? Want to kick this off? Well, Shane Lowry, obviously, he's Irish, isn't he? And that's kind of it. That kind of stands out. Not that means anything position-wise or what kind of club he'd end up at, but I don't know whether it's just because of Shane Long, and he shares a name with Shane Long, but I could see him like a lower Premier League level striker. Maybe scores like 2 goals in 30 games like Shane Long. Maybe ends up at like Southampton if they get promoted, or maybe a Watford or somebody like that. That's definitely the kind of level I could see him operating at. Okay. Yeah, because I mean, personally, I thought Birmingham centre back. I thought he's got Birmingham centre back written all over him. 50 caps for Ireland, but always stays in the Championship, doesn't move up. But yeah, I see him as I thought the name Shane Lowry just screamed Birmingham central defender, but no, okay, evidently not. I mean, I could see that. I mean, I guess again, I see along that lines of his name's very similar to Shane Long, so I kind of get that link, and he could be. And I suppose Irish strikers, I suppose in the Premier League they've been a bit hit and miss really. You've had the likes of Robbie Keane, but then you've also had the likes of Evan Ferguson and Adam Eder that haven't quite hit it. So I don't know. Yeah, potentially. Yeah, but I sort of I see him as like a championship centre back, like dominating, big, like 6'4", not getting round him very easily, very solid, but just doesn't get that like Premier League move, if you know what I mean. But yeah, Andy, what about you? What do you reckon? Shane, like I don't know why, but I thought about A-League in Australia. He's like the kind that you'd find in like playing for Melbourne City or like Adelaide or like what's that team? Central Coast Mariners. Yeah, so it's like someone Ange managed for 6 months. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I see Shane Lowry as like A-League level, and he plays for Australia, and you see him like every 4 years of the World Cup when, you know, Australia gets like the last 16 and then they get knocked out, and you don't see him again for another 4 years. But yeah, that's kind of where I saw Shane Lowry. I didn't see. I know he's Irish, and everyone like Irish is like the obvious answer, but I just didn't see it. I saw A-League for some reason. I don't know why. Okay, that's interesting. No, I didn't make that connection to be honest. I mean, maybe he could end up in the A-League after he finishes his Birmingham stint. Maybe. No, I didn't see. I didn't see. Did you think what? I was thinking centre back as well. Like he's got one of those names. Yeah, Shane Lowry just sounds like a centre back, doesn't he? A commanding, tall centre back. He's got a big beard, I'd imagine. A big ginger beard, or maybe a brown beard. I don't know. But yeah, that's kind of where I imagined Shane Lowry to be in Australia, playing for someone over there. Okay, interesting. So we've had two centre-back shouts. We've had a striker. So, yeah, very, very contrasting from Paul there. But I can see the logic. I can see the logic in Shane Lowry being a struggling lower level Premier League player. But yeah, sort of like in between. So lower league Premier League player, decent Championship player. I don't know where A-League fits into that. But yeah, okay, so Shane Lowry is definitely, he's not elite level. He hasn't got a name that will take you to the elite level. But he seems to be able to find a decent level, I guess. So yeah, okay. So Shane Lowry is a centre-back / striker with very middling ability. So yeah, that's Shane Lowry. So the next one, I think this might be a bit of an interesting one, is Scotty Scheffler. Now, Scotty Scheffler is obviously a very American name. I don't think you can really... I don't think you can get a much more Americanized name than that. Scotty Scheffler. Now, I see him as he's one of those Americans that very gradually makes his way over to Europe. I see him as like, maybe starts out like Colorado Rapids or something like that. And then when he's about 24, 25, gets a move to Borussia Dortmund, plays there. I see him as a central midfielder. Maybe I'm seeing somebody like Weston McKennie. He reminds me of like a Weston McKennie kind of figure. Central midfielder going into Europe, plays for Borussia Dortmund for a few years, does all right. Maybe gets a loan spell like Leeds or something. Again, maybe that's because of McKennie, I don't know. Gets a 6-month loan spell in the Premier League, doesn't really take it by storm, ends up going back to America. I don't know. But yeah, I definitely see Scheffler as like somebody who starts out in the MLS, gets a move to Europe, does fairly okay, and then ends up having a very short stint in the Premier League, and it doesn't quite go to plan, and then, yeah, ends up back in the MLS. Yeah, maybe. I mean, yeah, it's definitely American, isn't it? I don't know whether, like, subconsciously with the Scheffler, That sounds kind of German, so maybe I could see the kind of logic there. Chef, I mean, yeah, I think for him, he's one of those like you see him at the World Cup for the US every 4 years. I don't know whether he quite goes to Europe or if he does, he kind of just becomes a bit of a journeyman. You know, maybe Austria, Switzerland, maybe plays in Belgium for a bit, or Holland, or somebody like that. Sort of like those kind of second tier leagues in Europe. Doesn't quite make it to the top 5 leagues, but he's sort of a bit of a European journeyman, maybe, but doesn't quite make it to the echelon of like a Champions League team or Europa League team, but does enough to get himself into the World Cup squad every 4 years. That's kind of where I'd see Scheffler. I don't think he's a world beater by any means, but I think he'll carve out like a decent career for himself, but he won't get to like the top level, if you know what I mean. Yeah, I could see that. I mean, I'm sure there are many American players that do that. I could see that. Yeah, sort of just like a middling kind of six. I've used the word middling twice. I think I've used the word middling more in the last 20 minutes than I've used it any point in my life. But yeah, I could definitely see that. Sort of just floats about, maybe trying to find a consistent club, or maybe he likes moving around. He wants to experience as much as he possibly can. I could see that. Yeah, definitely. Andy, what about you? Scottish Scheffler. I could see him again. I don't know why I'm so fixated on it. Maybe I could see him in like the SPL again, like the Scottish League. I don't know why. Because I don't know. It was just because his name's Scotty. I think he'd fit in Scotland. But yeah, I guess maybe as like a winger on the side, or maybe actually no. I see him as like maybe an Austrian player. I mean, I've never met an Austrian called Scotty, but it's the name Scheffler kind of gives that Austrian vibe. Maybe he's American by birth, but he represents Austria because that's where his parents come from, and he plays for like, I don't know, like Sturm Graz or something, or was it LASK or whatever they're called? Yeah, yeah, that's a decent shout. I could see that. And is he like I see him as like a winger, whether he back, I imagine, I suppose if he played for Sturm Graz, he would be a fully fledged Austrian international. Whether he'd ever go and play in like the German Bundesliga, or maybe like get moved to Italy or England or something like that, I don't know. But yeah, actually, I've had a change of mind. I did go for Scotland initially, but I actually see him as like an Austrian winger, I would say. Okay. Yeah, I could see that. Paul, in terms of positions, what were you thinking for Scheffler? Because I don't think I don't think we got your position. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I forgot. I see him as a goalkeeper. I don't know why. I see him as a keeper. Scottish Scheffler in goal. Yeah, I could see that. Maybe just journeyman goalkeeper. Maybe he's one of those that he kind of, those random keepers where they're like the age of 37 or 38, they get picked up by Liverpool or Man City to be like their third choice goalkeeper. Maybe he could do that, I don't know. But yeah, I see Scottish Scheffler for me, that's a goalkeeper name for me. Okay, yeah, I can picture it now actually, like a really shit Manuel Neuer, journeyman Manuel Neuer questing his way through the Swiss and the Romanian leagues and the Hungarian leagues. Yeah, so we've had quite a wide variety. There's no sort of overall consensus really for Scotty Scheffler. Two of us have agreed on the American thing, because I mean it is a very American. I know Scheffler sort of screams like German, but I thought Scotty is the giveaway, isn't it? Really, but yeah, okay. So that's where Scotty Scheffler is. He is a mixture of a midfielder, a goalkeeper, and a winger, and he is American and Austrian. So that's where he'd be. Right, next one is the big hitter, the Masters winner himself. Two-time Masters winner now is Rory McIlroy. Rory McIlroy. Andy, you haven't gone first yet. Do you wanna kick this one off? Yeah, okay. So Rory McIlroy. Oh, I mean, obviously, like first instinct is like Irish international or Northern Irish international. Plays maybe for like Celtic. Yeah, I was thinking Celtic as well. Yeah, Celtic or like championship level. Like a player for like Coventry or Wrexham. He might be one of those ones that maybe he played in the Premier League for a while, did all right, and then ended up at Wrexham as like another like marquee signing for the Championship or something. Yeah, I sort of have similar. I see like he's either Celtic or League One. That's kind of like the level I see Rory McIlroy at. Um, Based on the name, like you can see him at like Fleetwood or I was trying to think I can't think of other League One clubs now. Like Leyton Orient, are they in League One? Are they in League One? I think they are. Stockport, someone like that. Luton. But yeah, no, I definitely see that logic. Yeah, I think he's just got one of those names. It's just like Rory McIlroy. You're going to end up in Scotland at some point with that name. Like, there's no way that you can actually. You can't avoid Scotland with that name. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, even if you're from Northern Ireland. But yeah, I think he's like Celtic for a few years and then ends up maybe dropping down to like gets a move to like a Crystal Palace or a Brighton or something like that. It doesn't really work out, and then he just kind of slowly filters down into the Championship and maybe ends up at like a Middlesbrough. Or yeah, Middlesbrough. Middlesbrough's a good shout. I could see McIlroy at Middlesbrough. That's a good shout. Yeah, Middlesbrough definitely. I suppose it's quite not right northeast, isn't it? So it's not far from Scotland to go. Yeah, I could see him having that kind of career maybe. But yeah, that's what I think anyway. Okay, Paul, what about you? Rory McIlroy, where would he end up? Oh God. I mean, I've had a bit of time to think about this, and I'm still not sure. I mean, I actually kind of agree with you guys that yeah, Scotland does seem right. There's no. I don't know whether it would be Celtic, though. That might be the thing that I disagree with. Maybe like a Hearts or a Hibernian, or not both, because obviously they kick off big time. Maybe like I don't know why I got a Falkirk in my head for some reason. Maybe Rory McIlroy ends up at Falkirk. I think definitely spends most of his career in Scotland. I don't know whether he come to England or not. But yeah, I could definitely see him being a mainstay in Scotland. Whether he goes on to go somewhere else, I don't know. Maybe he could end up in like the MLS. Maybe he's conquered Augusta. You might think, well, go and conquer America in a different way. But yeah, I definitely agree on the Scotland thing. That's the kind of name. It just screams Scotland, doesn't it? It does, and I think that's the first time we're actually all in agreement on where somebody could end up, which is, I think that's the first time ever. I just got a couple of names to throw at you. Where we go? We're going Tyrrell Hatton next. Tyrrell Hatton. I think personally, Tyrrell Hatton for me screams. I've used screams a lot. I hate people who say it just scream. I've started doing it myself, and I hate myself for it. Tyrrell Hatton for me is a fourth choice goalkeeper at Manchester United until like the age of 24, 25. Gets released, ends up at like Wigan or something. Has a really good career in like League One Championship, and then maybe kind of like Tom Heaton ends up back at Man United when he's about 40, and is there like emergency homegrown fourth choice again? I don't know, but I could definitely see him like starting out with like a Man United, getting released, and then finding his way in like League One, League Two, something like that. Yeah, okay. I saw him as like a flashy winger, like the name Tyrrell. He's got some. He's like a bit of a maverick. There's something about him. Maybe a bit of like a Jack Grealish kind of player. Could sort of jink in and out, beat players, plays his own game. Maybe then he goes to Man City and Pep kind of coaches the life out of him. Could be another one of them, or he could be like a streets won't forget kind of player, where he plays for like a mid-table Premier League club, and he's just like a cult hero, and everyone loves him, thinks he's a brilliant player, and he ends up on the streets won't forget subreddit like every 3 hours. JJ Okocha reincarnated. Yeah, exactly. Like he could be like a permanent fixture on that subreddit. He's just, it's something about that name. Yeah, it just screams Maverick for me. I don't know why. I think Tyrrell Hatton. I'm not like overly convinced on it. I do think maybe Championship level Tyrrell Hatton. I am thinking like Paul. I was thinking winger. I don't know whether he's like a streets won't forget or whether he's like a maverick. I see him as maybe quite a disciplined winger. Fits into systems quite well. I see him on the left side, sort of cutting in on his right foot and unleashing a shot. Yeah, I could see him. I don't know what I'm seeing him in a Coventry shirt. I'm seeing Tyrrell Hatton in a Coventry shirt. I can picture him in bright blue, not Man City level, but Coventry level. I think could be, maybe goes up to the Premier League with them, comes straight back down again. Does he get a move after? Does he get a shot at the Premier League? I don't know. But Tyrrell Hatton for me, I see him like, winger, bit flashy, not quite the maverick like Paul mentioned, but yeah, just a very solid, consistent winger. Maybe gets 20-25 goals and assists a season. But yeah, Tyrrell Hatton is definitely that kind of breed of player for me. I think that's what that name would be for me. Okay, so yeah, so you two have had a completely different approach to me. I honestly thought like starts out at Man United, and yeah, it doesn't make it, and yeah, but obviously not. We've got different consensus on that. So yeah, so Tyrrell Hatton is a goalkeeper / winger, bit of a maverick, but also quite disciplined. But yeah, I don't think we're going to come to a conclusion on that one. But okay, that's interesting. Next one, Ludvig Åberg. Assuming, obviously he's Swedish. We know he's Swedish. Anyone that watches golf knows he's Swedish. But where would he be? Do you think Ludvig Åberg? Bodo Glimt cult hero. I think he's going to be part of their Champions League story. I think he gets a move from Sweden when he's quite young, goes over there when he's about 19, 20. Attacking midfielder. I see him as like an attacking midfielder, stroke number 10, creative player. I'd see him in that role, Ludvig Åberg. I think he'd do a brilliant job, and I think clubs should be scouting him, but doesn't quite get the move that he maybe deserves. But he stays at Bodo Glimt, goes on to have an amazing career and does brilliant things. Okay, yeah, I could see that. I suppose the Scandinavian connection, I imagine. Yeah. Personally, I see him as like he goes to Spurs when he's about 17, from Sweden. I see him as a midfielder as well, but a centre mid, maybe like a Bergvall kind of player. Goes there at 17, doesn't quite make the grade, ends up sort of bouncing around between the under 21s and loan spells that don't quite work out. And then eventually he finds his feet at like Middlesbrough or something when he's about 22, 23. And yeah, makes a name for himself at Middlesbrough, becomes a hero for them, is one of the Championship's best players. Eventually gets promoted to the Premier League with them and doesn't quite make Premier League level. That's what I see Ludvig Åberg as. I see him as like a top level Championship player that struggles to bring it to the Premier League. Someone who started at a big club, didn't quite make it, and has found his feet elsewhere. That's that's what Oberg. That's where I see Oberg anyway. Okay, I for Oberg for me, I would say I could see him like playing in Germany, someone like that. Maybe like someone like Augsburg or Freiburg, something like mid-table Bundesliga level. That's where I'd see Oberg. Like you wouldn't, it's one of those players like you wouldn't know he existed unless you signed him like Football Manager or FIFA or something like that. He's just very anonymous. Goes about. I actually think he'd be a midfielder as well. I don't disagree with that. Maybe. No, I think Oberg is a midfielder. I think that would make sense. But yeah, just very very anonymous. Kind of just gets on with his job. You wouldn't know he was there, and yeah, I'd see just a very very average footballer that just exists really. But yeah, I definitely see him as like mid-table Bundesliga player. Maybe suffers the odd relegation to Bundesliga 2. I don't know, but I'd definitely see him in that area. Okay, yeah, okay. And so we've all managed to actually pick the same position. I think there is something about Oberg that just screams midfielder. Oh, it's done it again. Screams. I've got to stop doing that. I hate myself for that. But yeah, there's something about Oberg. Yeah, centre mid. I can't see a player called Oberg in any other position than central midfielder, and I can't see anyone else. I just see him as like a Lucas Bergvall type of player. Like that's all it is to me. I got one more name to throw at you before we wrap this up, and that name is Hideki Matsuyama. Hideki Matsuyama, Celtic. I'm not just saying that because Celtic have had a lot of Japanese players. I see him as maybe like a successor to Shinsuke Nakamura, like on that right hand side, cutting in on his left foot. I reckon he's got a great free kick on him. Maybe ends up going to like France or Italy or somebody like that. Could go to like a Roma or a Lazio, or maybe I don't know. Yeah, Matsuyama, that was my first instinct, Celtic. I don't know whether it's just because they've had like Kyogo and Nakamura, and who's the other one? Is it Maeda? But yeah, I don't know whether it's just because they've had a lot of Japanese players. That's where I think he'd be. Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, I suppose given, yeah, that would make sense, I guess. For me, I would see him as, I don't know, like I see him as like somebody who gets to the Premier League. He's like a reserve player for like I don't know, like an Aston Villa or a Liverpool or someone like that. He's there for about 4 or 5 years, doesn't quite make the grades, and then ends up going back to Japan for a bit, plays some really good stuff, gets a move back to Europe, and he ends up in like Spain or something. He plays for like Mallorca or Celta Vigo or somebody like that, and he just gets by. He has a decent career, and he gets by. Plays for Japan national team. He scores a big goal against an England or a France or a Germany. He gets a very notable goal, but apart from that, his career is just very, very anonymous. That's what I would see Matsuyama as. I don't know why I see Matsuyama as an Inter Milan player. Inter Milan international, not an international, Japan international, plays for Inter Milan, plays on the wing, I reckon. Matsuyama, I see him as a winger. Maybe as a centre forward. I don't know. He could be a centre forward, maybe sort of a winger stroke forward. But yeah, I see Matsuyama as like an Inter Milan player, regular starter, really good player, regularly monitored by Manchester City and Arsenal, but they never actually go for him. He gets about nearly 100 caps for Japan. He's one of their best ever players, and scores from at a World Cup. That's what I see Matsuyama as. A very, very, probably maybe like an even better Kaoru Mitoma. Yeah, that's what I see Matsuyama as anyway. Right, okay, so we've all kind of come to a consensus that he would be a wide player. Obviously, Paul, you said he might be a forward as well. But yeah, we all kind of see Matsuyama as a winger. Some on the right, some on the left. Maybe he could play on either side. I don't know, but yeah, So differing levels as well. I suppose you said Inter Milan, Andy, you said Celtic. I said just bouncing around from Europe to Asia and then back to Europe again. So it's another one that's provided a lot of debate in terms of ability. We've all had different ideas on where they would be in terms of ability, but we've all sort of stuck to the fact that he would definitely be a wide player. So that brings us to the end of the first episode. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm going to have to edit this together now and see what the hell we've come out with. It might be that this is the strangest thing ever to hit the internet. Why the hell are we doing this? But also, people might enjoy it, so we don't know. But yeah, I hope that you enjoyed listening to it anyway. If you want us to do more, let us know. This is going to be sort of like a pilot episode, I guess, to see whether this is something that's actually decent enough to continue, or something that's just be consigned. Is it going to be the Ali Dyer of podcasts? Is it going to be please never do this again, this was terrible? I don't know. Let's see. Or it might be we might get a reprieve, or we might go on to have a decent level career. Who knows? But yeah, that is going to be everything for today. So thank you, Paul, for joining me. Thank you, mate. Yeah, it's been a pleasure, mate. And thank you, Andy. Yeah, cheers, mate. Really enjoyed this one. So yeah, thank you for inviting me along, and hopefully we get another chance. Thank you very much for listening. I really hope that you enjoyed it. If you did enjoy it, please share it around. Please rate the podcast or give it a like if you are on those platforms and you are able to do so. I don't really know how podcasts work. I've never done one before. But rating standard, isn't it? You give it a rating, you give it a review. As the loudest motorbike in the world has just passed my flat. But yeah, hopefully you enjoyed it. Thank you very much for listening. Take care of yourselves, and we will see you next time, hopefully, for episode 2.